So once again, thank you for joining our webinar today. In this session, we will be looking at ways that ActivInspire and interactive displays such as the interactive whiteboard or interactive panel can be used to support learning and teaching for literacy. Today we're joined by Caryn Brown from Ballywalter Primary School in Northern Ireland. Caryn is also a Promethean advocate, and she has a great knowledge of not only the ActivInspire software, but also about using educational and new technologies in schools. I'm Janice Pranstadter, and I'm going to be your host and co-presenter for this afternoon. I'm a teaching and learning consultant for the UK and Ireland, and I do come from a teaching background, and I always say once a teacher, always a teacher. So even though I'm not in the classroom right now, I still consider myself a teacher. And my colleague Samantha Clues is also on the webinar tonight. As I said, she's going to be managing the chat for this session. So if you do have questions or comments, please pose them directly to Sam or by selecting the All Panelists option in the drop-down menu. So on screen now, you can see some of the things that we will be covering in this session. These half-hour sessions tend to be packed with information and the pace goes quite quickly. But don't worry, because if you miss something, you can watch it again from the recording. So hopefully I'll get the recording uploaded to the YouTube channel that Sam and I use for these webinars tomorrow. And you'll also get an automated message from WebEx with that link coming out. I think it's scheduled to come out on Friday. So you should be getting that as well. So if you miss something, you can go back and watch it in your own time. Any questions again, please use that chat facility to ask Sam, and we'll do our best to answer some of those questions as we go along. So over the next few pages, you're going to see some of the resources used in pages shared by Caryn, and also ones that I've picked up from working with teachers during my time at Promethean. Now, this was a really hard session to cram into a half an hour or 45 minutes because there was just so many things that we could talk about. So Caryn sent some fantastic pages over, and I had to be pretty ruthless and cut some of them out. And there were lots of things that I wanted to share as well. So I guess what I'm saying is watch this space, because we might have a using an IWB for literacy part 2 in our schedule next year as well. Okay, so I'm just going to pass you over to Caryn to get us started on her first page.
Thank you, Janice. Hello, everybody. This page, it's from the activities section of the resources, and it's really popular with our foundation stage, our 4- to 5-year-old teachers. The letters can be used endlessly to create words or phrases. It can be used as a whole class activity with the whole class at the board, but more increasingly as an independent activity during literacy station group work.
Okay, so just to show you how that works, as Caryn said, this is found in the resource library, so I have to keep reminding myself that I'm in the primary skin here and not the studio skin. But all of these resources you will find in the studio skin as well. So it was in the resource library, and under activities and templates, we've got activities and alphabet activities, and you can see that there's 2 variations of those magnetic letters there. So these are pages that are already created that I can just purely drag up from my resource library and put onto my page. What's fantastic about this is that all these letters on the page are set to drag a copy. So I could have my class, pupils in my class, come up and we could start to spell words. So there's various ways that we could use this. This is, it's lovely that this is already made, but it's very simple to make these kind of activities yourself, what we call drag and drop. So if I just drag up my H for a minute up here, okay, I can make this into a drag and drop just by selecting the object, going to my object edit menu, and right down here at the bottom I have the option for drag and drop. So what I've now done is I've made this object so that I can have infinite copies of that just by picking them up and dragging them out of the way. Okay, so you can create these yourself, but there are some fantastic resources that already come within the software where these activities have been built for you already.
Okay, on the next page, again from the activities resources, which I think Janice is pulling up now, I would use the handwriting letters from the resource library so that the children can pull up whatever letters they want. Should be for their spellings, for their names, for anything. Great for handwriting practice, for letter formation. You can include independent spellings, and quite often then I would get other children to come up and trace over, choose a different colour and trace over the words or the letters that have been brought up by other children. They are customizable, which I think Janice is going to show you. The like of the F that is up there in our handwriting scheme in school, we don't have that tail on the F. So simply by putting a white box over it and grouping, then you have the F that we would use.
Okay, so I'm just demonstrating that. Just put the box over and then group those together. And now you've got that customized letter.
On another subject of sort of handwriting, I would often use the Handwriting Recognition tool from the toolbar. It lets the children see if their writing is neat, because if the letters are not formed properly, the board does not recognize the word. Now, I would put a note of caution on this one because some strange words may appear. But also when they actually do write something, there is a drop-down box beside it, which if it hasn't actually completely recognized it, you see the drop-down box that Janice had, it did recognize hello, but if it hadn't recognized that, it would have given you various options there. Which one do they think is correct? Your handwriting's too good, Janice.
Okay, so you can see that little drop down there. Okay, so these were found, as I showed you, in the resource library here under subjects. Now, there are 5 resource libraries that install automatically with the software. That's your activities and templates, backgrounds, grids, lesson building tools, and sounds. The one that I find when I go to schools that is often missing is this one here called subjects. And this is your main resources that you have available to you. And you can see here that I've actually got one that's entitled Language, Arts and Literacy. So there's quite a lot of really good resources in here, so it's worth having a look through and seeing what's available to you. And I think I saw somebody just flash up a chat there about you know, the age. Caryn is a primary teacher, so the activities we started off here are some of the primary ideas that she's using. I think that you know, some of the skills are transferable across ages, like the handwriting recognition tool and different ways to use it, and also the resources that are available to you in the library. And I'm going to show a scope of ideas across the webinar as well, so looking at more secondary age pupils as well. Okay, so just if you don't have that, go back to your resource library and check and make sure you've got that subjects resource pack. And if you don't have it, you can download it from the support tab on Promethean Planet. Okay.
To explain this page, this is quite a simple page that I made up and then stored in my flip chart pages. So they're in my own personal collection as opposed to shared. And literally, this can be used for guided reading sessions. So the children can see, I've obviously got 3 groups, lions, parrots, and dolphins. The page is very easy just to pull up, and then on a daily basis, the children can see what I'm looking for when they're reading with me, obviously on the blue side, and then when they are away from me and I'm not working with them as a group, what exactly I am looking for there. So I can either share their group targets, their learning intentions, or the success criteria, what they need to do to be successful.
Thanks, Caryn. So Caryn uses this page in various ways, and you know, you have to find things that are relevant to you. But this page is something that she uses over and over and over again. But instead of having to create this page each time, she creates it once and then is able to save it into a resource library and be able to pull out and adapt at any time. So to save a template page into the resource library, you just create it the way you want it to look, then open up your library And what you need to do is find the resource folder that you want to save it into. Now, when I do my page templates, I tend to go, instead of saving it into the shared resources, I tend to save it in my resources because I can more easily find them. And I could create, just by clicking on here, I could create a new folder and I could call them My Templates. Click OK, and now you can see that's there. So if I select that folder, I then want to go to the flip chart page and right-click on it to get my menu up, and I'm going to add this to the library, and I just want to add page to resource library. And now you can see that that is in my resource library. So instead of having to create pages that I use again and again every single time, I can save them as templates into my resource library to be able to use and save time.
Okay, obviously, again, as I am a primary school teacher, this is based around Red Riding Hood, but there are a lot of resources, as Janice will show you later, for secondary school. Using the storytelling resources and the speech bubbles, children can create their own dialogue or simply retell a traditional tale, as they can then decide who's in the wardrobe, what are they saying, what's Red Riding Hood saying, and Janice will now open the wardrobe.
Okay, so all I've done here is I've used the camera tool to take a snapshot of the front of the wardrobe in two parts. And what we wanted to do is then have the class be able to come up and open the door. So it's just, you know, giving that illusion of the door opening. What I'm in fact doing is I'm just resizing that shape, that object on my page, to make it look narrower or wider, but it does give that impression of opening the door. So just a way of capturing their attention and engaging them.
Another way of that is using the voice recorder, so that when the children do decide what the character is saying, the children will record their own voices so that you can put their voices on the character.
That's great. So you can find the voice recorder just in the toolbar. So remember, this is the primary skin, but it will be in the same location if you're using Studio. It's just instead of it coming up with the icons down at the bottom, you'll have a little menu come out to the side, and you want to look for more tools and find your sound recorder. So our sound recorder is here. This allows me to have pupils come up. They can record their ideas of something. They could record themselves saying part of the story. And then once we stop that, it then puts this little sound icon on our board. Or I could pick that up and I could move that onto that speech bubble and click it to play it back. Record their ideas of something. They could record themselves saying part of the story. Okay. And then, so a great way of, you know, having that formative assessment, so I can have that recording that I can go back to use for assessment purposes afterwards. It's also really great for peer and self-assessment, and so to listen to themselves reading a passage and then you know, listening to that back and then talking about their reading skills and whatnot and building on that as well. This is a slightly older version of that page that Caryn just showed us. So these resources come from a free partnership that we have on Promethean Planet called Manga Shakespeare. And these are great images, and we can have different backgrounds and things. So I could build up a page similar to the conversation I was having with younger learners, but more relevant to the older learners in my class. So having those speech bubbles and being able to use the recording to record their ideas about what is going on. Okay. So this one is Manga Shakespeare, and again, you can download that from Promethean Planet, and this particular pack is on Romeo and Juliet. So flip chart pages could easily be used to get the class to recreate specific scenes from novels, and including the speech or the thought bubbles for characters means that I can then get them to you know, review parts of the speech that's been going on, parts of the stories that's been going on, as well as we could actually get them to step into those characters' shoes and give their thoughts and feelings of what's happening. These speech bubbles, you can find them in the resource library. So in the resource library, under shared resources, subjects, language, literacy, arts, you do have a variety of speech bubbles here. But you can also find the speech bubbles just by going to Shape, and I've got a speech bubble tool here where I can draw my own, and this means that I can customize them a little bit further as well. Okay. Page backgrounds can also be really good to set the stage for stories, and can be used for getting conversations going about what's happening. We could also have some great conversations about how different scenery, could change what's going on in the story as well. So again, in the resource library under backgrounds, we've got some fantastic resources that I could then just pull out and change. So when I change the background, does that change what's happening in the story? And also some great photographs here, like the one that we originally had on there. Okay, just changing it. Right, Caryn, on to your next one.
This is a great morning starter I would use as a thinking skill. Basically, the children are faced with this word, and they have to discuss in groups what they mean. I try to choose words that they would not normally come across, or words outside their normal vocabulary. Great vocabulary builder, because I find the children then have an interest in it and start to use it over the course of a day. We can use expressions that they can then use their expression devices to have an idea what they think this actually means. And you see Janice pulling in the arrow. The arrow has been set off the page so that you can just pull that in and the correct meaning is there, and then they can put it in a sentence. Lollygag is used quite often now when children are wasting time. They will use it with each other.
I like that idea, and I think that fits really well into that brain break idea, isn't it? Just, yeah. You can see your class flagging, so take that time to step away from what you're working on and do something else to just capture their attention and get them engaged again. So what we've done here is that little tab that we pull off the page. So all this is an arrow and a piece of text that I've grouped together, and then set that so it only moves horizontally across the page. So we can have that conversation about what they think the word means, first of all, and then be able to drag that across to reveal what the correct meaning is. And then I really like that idea of them continuing to use that throughout the day. I'm just going to pause for a second, Caryn, and just ask Sam if there's any questions or anything that needs clarifying that's coming through. I can see some text happening there. So I will let them.
That's okay. There's just been a couple of questions about the downloads and where to find the resource pack. So I think that I've answered people as we've been going through. Just to reiterate that we obviously have a series of webinars. So Janice is referencing these webinars throughout, previous ones that we've done, including one on finding resources on Promethean Planet. And they are all found under the playlist. You'll automatically get a link to that playlist. So don't feel like you have to go find it this evening. That email will come out tomorrow, and it'll take you directly there, and you can see all the previous sessions.
That's great, Sam. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, we'll plow on then. So I could also use that idea of those tabs to have multiple discussions that we're going to do based on a piece of text on the page. So in this case, we're looking at Macbeth, the Shakespearean play Macbeth, and we're looking at his soliloquy. In this case, I've got a nice background, because remember that this is a very visual tool, so I want to get my class motivated by engaging them, and images are a really great way of doing that. And then I've got my text on the page. Now what I've done is I wanted to not have all my text revealed at the same time. So what I've done is I've created this little scroll box, and I can pull the text up and scroll through it. And again, what I've done is I've set this in the properties so that that text only moves vertically. It won't move across my page. I've made this look like it's moving in that little fireplace there. And to do that, it's just tricks of the software, using that camera tool to take snapshots and then layering. So the parts that I want the text to move behind are above it, or in a layering above the text itself, okay? So it has that idea of moving behind. So I can pull those tabs up, and I've got my discussion questions. So it means that I can keep my lesson moving at a good pace because I've got everything that I need here for it, but I'm in control of when that information is revealed and when we're going to discuss particular parts of it, so I don't have my class jumping ahead. So in this case, it says, color the words to do with violence or death. So because I'm moving this, I could use my highlighter, but this doesn't actually work very well in this case, because if I highlight a word, now I know this one doesn't have to do with death, but I'm just highlighting any word that's there. When I move my text, you'll notice that that highlight doesn't go with it. So what I really like to do when I'm trying to get them to pick out words, vocabulary, sentences, phrases within text, is to use the fill tool. So it's a little bucket here on the toolbar, and again, you have this on the studio toolbar as well. What I can do is choose a color, and this time I can color the words that, or get them to come up and color the words that they think have to do with death, and then we can move on, and this time you'll see that that color moves with it. Okay, so it moves right along. Once we're finished with that question, we can just tuck it right back down, and we can pull up the next one. Okay, and this one, again, just keeping that discussion going, so having these little tabs available to us. This is another one. This is a Romeo and Juliet again. I know that that's not the only things that we talk about when we do literacy lessons is Shakespeare. It just so happens that I've picked up some of them. Oh, somebody told me I had a spelling mistake there. I do apologize. A lot of these pages I've taken are ones that I found on Promethean Planet or other places and have adapted slightly, so I do apologize if there are some spelling errors in there. Not very good on a literacy webinar, I do have to admit. So this page shows another examples of tabs, and this time each tab has a quote from the play, so I can just pull that tab up, and then the class has to guess what type of literary term is being used. And after the class discussion has happened, so we get everybody to decide whether they have learner response or putting up their hand or writing it down in some way to decide which one they think it is, we can use this little reveal tool here to then move over top of it and reveal what the correct answer for that activity actually was. Okay, so this is using something called Magic Ink to reveal that. And we can pull that back down, and we can move on to another one. So instead of having to have these all on separate pages, I can use the same idea, but just have these tabs to be able to pull up and just have one page instead of having to flip through different pages all the way along. Okay, and I'm going to come back to Magic Ink a little bit later on if you're not familiar with that tool. So just before Caryn starts on this page, she's using a tool called Tickertape, and Tickertape can't it doesn't automatically come up on my page. So when I open a flip chart, I need to make sure that I open my Tickertape as well. So I'm just going to do that as Caryn is talking to you, and then I'll go back and show you how I did that.
Okay, it's very cross-curricular, but I do use it a lot in literacy. Having the learning intentions or success criteria constantly on show during a lesson is a reminder to the children about what they're learning or what I'm looking for and how they can succeed, tips of what they can do. I will quite often type in their spellings for the week as a morning starter and vary the speed children have to keep up, and it's just constantly reminding them of the spellings, and it is quite a popular one.
Thanks, Caryn. So that's great. Just to have that little message that you don't want to have to keep saying to your class. Tickertape is really good for that, just having that up at the top. And just a little variation on the spelling ideas. In this case, we've used it with homophones. So that's scrolling along the top, and then we can get our class to interact with that in various ways, whether it's looking up definitions or writing sentences, or even just in partner work, talking to each other and using the different words. So If I turn that off, I'll show you again. To get a ticker tape, you just go up to your tools again, and you would just want to scroll around until you find ticker tape. So remember, if I'm not sure, I can hover over top of it until it tells me what that tool is. So in this case, you can see we've got one open, and it's moving quite quickly across the screen there. But what I could do is I could start a new ticker tape, and I could type a message in. So I could hope you are enjoying our webinar, and you can see that that's now coming across at the top. If I wanted to save that, I would then click on the little save button here, and because it's a new ticker tape, it should ask me to save that, and it'll automatically save it into a folder on my computer for ticker tapes. I can give it a name, and I'm just going to call it test, and save that. Okay, and now I can close that. The ticker tape will stay active across any of my pages as I turn, so you can see I can actually have that message going across my flip chart. What I can also do is, I didn't do it on this one, but I could have a background behind that ticker tape to make it much easier to see on my page as well. If I want to close that, I just close it down in that way. So just to show you, if I do have one that's saved, I just open up Tickertape, go to this icon here, and then it'll locate that ticker tape folder on my hard drive. Okay, just before we move on to the next page, I've seen a couple questions come in. Sam, do you want to jump in at all?
Sorry, I was on mute. The ticker tape isn't coming across very well on the WebEx. There's a lot of grey and yellow hatching covering the actual message, so it's quite difficult for people to see it, unfortunately. So that's just what people are talking about. Some people coming across fine, some others are having a few issues.
Good. I think some things like that with moving images don't always come across brilliantly in WebEx because we're having to rely on internet or Wi-Fi or internet access. But anyway, do give it a try because it is a really nice little tool and can be used very creatively as well. So it's just in the tools, and then you want ticker tape. Once again, if you are in the studio skin, it'll still be under tools, and I think it's under more tools in the menu that comes up on the side.
Just as an aside to the ticker tape, I know it's a literacy webinar, but I would quite often put tables up there as well. So the children have to look at the tables with missing numbers in them. So they have to, and it is a speed test, but it does enthuse them an awful lot more when this is scrolling across the screen.
That's great, and I like that idea.
This next one is...
Oh, sorry, Karen.
Yeah? Sorry.
Sorry, Karen, to interrupt you, but Amanda's just asked if you can have more than one ticker tape message at any given point on your page.
No.
No.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, no, you. Unless anyone can contradict, I'm going to say no as well.
Yeah.
No, and I'm going to jump in there and agree that no, I think you can only have one ticker tape at a time, I'm afraid.
So unless anyone on the call knows differently and they've practiced on this, then and obviously do let us know because we learn from you guys all the time as well. But unfortunately, no, Amanda, you can't.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
Sorry, on the next page, I would reveal questions one at a time. It is really a bit like what Janice was doing earlier, where you have everything on the page, but you don't just want everything to happen at once. I would use this quite often to start of a topic or anything like, or something like that. This one, it's the start of my journeys topic, and by linking backwards and forwards between the pages, you see you've got page, your first question, then you're linking to the next page. All the questions refer to the same picture, but it's basically trying to structure the children's thought processes and structure more of a discussion, not just single statements about something.
That's great. So you can see how easy it is to move between pages. So sometimes a particular lesson you're working on can be moving back and forth between the pages. And I like that idea of having the questions separate, so I'm not cluttering up that page of pictures as well. Being able to open up one, move to the picture, discuss that one before we move on to the next one. So all we're doing to do this is linking between pages. And you can see Caryn's taken a snapshot of that picture on the other page. And to link that, all you need to do is using your browser, which I've just closed down. So let me open that back up again. I'm going to pin it in place. And selecting the image that she wants, and then we go to actions. And in this case, we can do page actions, and I can specify a particular page that I want to send it to. So you can see we can jump to various pages in our flip chart just this way. But Caryn has set up moving back and forth between these two pages. Right, Caryn?
Okay, the bottom yellow picture I have set up to reveal magic ink to save me going to find it in the same way from the browser as Janice just showed you in the previous one. And if you rub off one at a time, they're not looking at everything. So we're looking at that piece of text initially, looking for obviously nouns, which we will use the fill tool to fill them green. And then the next one, so again, it is giving them the information a bit at a time and maybe using that. That can be used as either as a class at the start of an exercise or again as group work where you want a group at the board to discuss and see if they can actually complete everything.
Okay, I like that. So that way of using the rub and reveal or the magic ink. Magic ink you can just find again in your tool, and it is, I'm on the wrong one here, magic ink. You can see here magic ink, and it looks similar in the Studio Skin as well. But magic ink is a really, really powerful tool, and we've covered this in almost this tool in almost all of our webinars because it can be used in such a good variety of ways. Okay, so in this topic, the class, we're exploring the life and work of a local poet, an Irish poet and playwright, translator and lecturer, as he will be, and he is also a Nobel Prize winner in literature in 1995. So there are several software features that could be very useful when looking at text, and we've already shown you some, like on the last page where I can use that fill tool to highlight key vocabulary and features of text. Now, as I showed you before, I do prefer to use that fill tool instead of the highlighter, because if I highlight on text and then move that text, the highlight doesn't go with it. But if I use the fill tool to color it, then I can move that text up and down and that text will go with it. Okay, so it just depends on how you want to use a particular page. Another thing that I can do with text is called extract, and I really, really like this. I think there's some really good creative ways this can be used, and it's excellent for picking up on vocabulary, understanding, you know, maybe looking at paragraphs and looking at ideas, main ideas and supporting ideas. So with this one, if I right-click on the page, I have something called extract text, and I can pull out individual words. So all I need to do is just hover over that word. So in this case, maybe it's one vocabulary that they're not familiar with. I want to right-click on it and extract text. And you can see I could then pull that out. So we could start to build up some words over here that maybe we want to go and do a little bit more research on because we don't understand. What I can also do is double-click on that text box. So now you can see I've opened up, my text edit has come up down the bottom. If you're in Studio, it's most likely to come up along the top here. And this means that I'm right in my text box. Yes, it should work on a Mac computer as well as a PC. And what I can do is, this time I could choose a phrase, and I could pull out multiple words. So I could pull out a phrase, or I could pull out a description or a key sentence. Okay, so we could start to really delve deeper into their understanding, drag it out, and be able to talk about it. Okay, so I can right-click on it to take out a single word, or I can double-click on it to go into a text box to bring out multiple words or a phrase or a sentence. So really, really nice, and I'm sure that you could think of some fantastic ways of using that within your literacy lessons. So as you already saw as well, adding sounds to lessons is also very, very good for literacy. There are a number of sounds that come within the resource library. So if I just go to my resource library again, and we have a look at our shared resources, we've got sounds. So you can see there we've got a variety of just single sound files. Now, I was lucky enough to witness a great lesson once where the class were looking at story writing, and in particular, they were describing settings. So not only did she use images to get her class thinking, but she also used sound files to help them build up the atmosphere with it. So I can use sound files as a way of getting them thinking about the ideas behind their writing. But sound can also be quite useful for assessment purposes. And just before I move on to this one, I want to come back here. One thing I didn't say on this page is another great thing I can do with sounds is I can go and find sound files on the internet, save them on my computer, and then be able to link them to objects on my page. So in this case, I was actually able to find the poet reading his own poem.
And old pumps with buckets and windlasses.
So very powerful for the class to be able to hear the poet reading his own work. And getting a real good idea on the meaning of it behind him just by the way he speaks about it. But as I was saying, sound can also be very useful for assessment purposes. So on this page, members of the class recorded themselves reading a passage from Romeo and Juliet. This then served as a record for the teacher, but it was also used for playback for peer and self-assessment. So you can see down here. Quite quiet, but I hope you can hear that.
Then window let day in and let light out.
Farewell, farewell, monkey.
Okay. So the voice recorder is also very useful for dictation passages as the icon can be reclicked often as you want it. So it could use it for instructions. I could have instructions on there, and instead of me having to repeat them all the time, if learners forget what they're supposed to be doing or need a little bit of help, they can come up and click on that as well to help them move on. Okay, I'm just going to plow on another couple pages, and then I'll maybe come back to Sam, but we're not too far finished for the webinar now, so thank you if you don't mind holding on just for the last page or so. Right, Caryn?
So it's my final page. It is a great page that I got from Planet. Sounds have been recorded along the bottom, as you can see in the little purple sound recorder box. Children can click on the sound, and then clicking on the fingers it actually turns it into magic ink, which rubs the sand out, but the children think that they're drawing in the sand. It's just a nice visual one for the children.
That's great, Caryn. And as Caryn said, she's taken this from Promethean Planet, an activity on Promethean Planet. So you don't need to spend hours creating your own resources. There are thousands of fantastic lessons on Promethean Planet. You can go on, have a look, download the flip chart onto your computer, and then you don't even have to use it exactly as it is. You can pick and choose pages to suit your lesson and mix them up with your own pages that you've created for your flip chart. Okay, I like that. That's a lovely little idea and very, very simple to do. Okay. So, just to finish up, thank you very much, Caryn, for your ideas tonight. I hope that everybody's managed to get some good ideas from that. Before I just tie up with the last couple of pages, I'm going to really quickly ask Sam if we had any more questions that needed to be answered.
We did, Janice. Just one very quick ones. So one just talking about needing a microphone to use the sound recorder. So I'm just replying to that one there, Jane. You don't need an actual microphone plugged in, but you will need some type of recording device. So if your PC or your laptop has that ability, then you can do it through the through your laptop as well. But you'll need something that can obviously pick up that. And Holly has asked, how do we use input sound clips and record clips. So can you just show them where the insert is there, Janice, please?
Yep, so you've got insert, and you can insert media as well here. So this will allow me to go onto my computer and find any media files that I have. So I actually don't think I've got a sound file. I've got music here, but some sample music. So I could find a file that I want, and then just click open it, and you'll see that sound file is now there on my computer. And then I can click that to play it. Okay, so as long as I have it stored on my computer, saved onto my computer somewhere, and I know where it is, I can get into that through insert and media. Okay.
Could I just put another idea out there, which I do for dictation, is using the sound files when the class are doing dictation. I will just repeat it once and then just click on the board.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I like that. Okay, thank you so much, Caryn, for sharing your fabulous ideas with us tonight. And I'm sure that between you and I, that we've given people who have joined us a few things to think about, or I certainly hope we have. So just to finish up, remember that everything we've discussed tonight, including some of the great lesson examples, can be found on Promethean Planet. And if you're not already a member of the website, I do recommend that you get yourself signed up, because there is a wealth of information to help you use this technology in your classroom. One place I do suggest looking is at the professional development pages of Promethean Planet. They've got some great video tutorials that will take you through all of the aspects that we've shown you today, as well as active tips. And you can also download manuals if you prefer to work from paper notes beside you. There's also on Promethean Planet a lot of publisher-created resources, themes, and free partnerships that have are literacy focused. So you can see here, I've got a few of them up just in front of the screen there for you to have a look at. So some really, really great ideas under the themed pages here, and lots of literacy relevant information in there. So do have a look there. We also have some great free partnership resources on Promethean Planet, as you can see here, and Manga Shakespeare was one that we showed several times in our lesson, or in our webinar tonight as well. So just to close off, this is our last webinar title for this year, and I hope that you've found this and any other ones that you might have attended useful. We are going to be continuing these free sessions in the next school year, and very shortly we're going to be putting out a poll on the Promethean Planet Facebook pages to help get you guys to decide on our next titles for the series next year. So it would be great to have your ideas of what you'd like us to cover. And if you want to have a say, please make sure that you go onto Facebook and give the Promethean Planet pages a like. In the meantime, if you do have any questions on anything that you've seen tonight, Sam and my emails are both on the screen there in front of you. We're also open to suggestions of titles for future topics, so please feel free to just send us an email. And you can also follow us on Twitter, where our handle is @PrometheanUK&I, for more hints, tips, and advice. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and I hope that it was worthwhile, that almost a full 45-minute session tonight. And once again, thank you so much, Caryn, for joining us and your absolutely fantastic ideas.